What is up, everyone? Coming to you not live from the bot cave here at North Pole High School. What'd you guys do this weekend? Tell you what I did. I hung out with my mates. Now, I know what you're saying, Mr. Slagle. That is not allowed during this current pandemic. Not allowed to hang out with your mates. Well, I'll tell you what I meant by that. I did not mean, I'll tell you what I didn't mean. I did not mean my friends. I haven't got a single one of those. Not allowed. I was hanging out with my mates in Onshape. And what I mean by that are how we mate or kind of fasten or attach solids in Onshape. Okay? So we come down through here and there are these different mates that we can use. I've included a link online so you can access this as well, but if you just Google mates in Onshape, this will come up and you can see the different ways that you can take two solids or two surfaces and attach them together. And they have all these little animated GIF files dancing on your screen so you can see what they mean by planar mate. These two planes are one and the same, okay? Or a revolution mate so that things can turn if you have something that's going to be turning around an axis, so on and so forth. So I was hanging out with my mates. What we're going to be doing today, we're going to be learning something new called assemblies. Now what an assembly is, and really can't really see, let me see if I can hide some of this video capture. Let me hide that. You can't really see all of the, I'm going to hide myself for a second. I've got all these different parts down here. Now anything that has these little white, looks like little white towers down at the bottom, that means that's a part, okay? And so in the past, we've just been designing parts, but it turns out that you can click on these different parts, like the wrist pin, which is essentially just a rod, right? We can click on the wrist pin, we can click on the connecting rod, and I've drawn all these individually, okay? And I'm not going to show you those right now, per se. I'm not going to draw them all right now, but they're all here, and I can click between them. So what the goal of today is I want to take all of these parts and turn them into a piston assembly. I want to assign them together. Wait, I got to get my camera on so you can see my reaction. I want to assign them together, right? I want to put them together so that, and assemble them so that we can have this working cohesive piece. Now this is not one part, it's an assembly of parts, which is pretty exciting if you ask me. Scoot that back up, perfect. All right, so how do we do that? How do we do that here in Onshape? What do we do in Onshape to make that happen? So I'm going to take the parts that I've already drawn and I am going to assemble them so you can see how it's done. All right, just a second. All right, so what we have in front of us is a very oversimplified piston and a cylinder from like a combustion engine, okay? And so if you want to watch more about four-stroke theory, you can find that on my website. I have a link to a cool YouTube video and maybe also posted in Google Classroom. So check the website if you want to see that. But this is a cylinder, you know, and we see that intake, the compression, the you know, ignition, the power, and the exhaust. You know, that would be happening in our cycle here, four-cycle engine going on. All right, so we're going to draw each of these. I would like you to be able to draw each of these kind of from scratch, make them, you know, from nothing, and assemble them together. And I tell you what, it's an amazing feeling. So I'm going to go over how you would do that. So if you're at the home screen in Onshape, you just go to Create Document like you normally would, and you can start by just creating one of these parts. Now, where can you find these parts? They're located in the piston drawing, which is on the website. So you can click into here, you can see all these details, And I'm going to teach you how to make these drawing files as well, but I have each of the parts kind of separated so that you can see all those, and they're all in millimeters, so you can draw them individually. You can draw the connecting rod, you can draw the wrist pin, you can draw the piston, you can draw the crankshaft, and then you can assemble them together. So this will be a resource for you to do your drawing. Let's go back to our piston. So we're going to start from scratch, and we're going to go over what an assembly is and how we can attach things together using our mates. So you notice down here in the bottom left-hand corner, which you cannot see, you'll notice down here in the bottom left-hand corner there's a little plus button. This little plus button, when you press it, you can choose to create different things. You can create a studio part, so the parts are like the connecting rod, the cylinder, the crankshaft, and you can create an assembly, which is where you glue them all together, and you can create a drawing. Well, the drawing is this thing over here, the thing that I showed you. Now this drawing is linked to all of those parts, if it ever pulls up. It's linked to all those parts, so when you change something in one of the parts, the drawing is going to change. All right, which is pretty exciting, and we'll go over kind of how to do that as well. So you can press, and you can click on these tabs down on the bottom to see where you're at. So I'm going to do the piston assembly, I'm going to kind of start over and walk you through each step of the process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the plus button, I'm going to press create assembly. Okay, and then I'm going to add the necessary parts to assemble, and I'm going to slowly assemble them using the mate commands. Now you'll notice the ribbon up here for the assembly option is much different. In fact, there are none of the same tools from the part, when you're creating a part. The main ones you're going to use are right here, and you can see all those broken down on the Onshape website, which is also linked. I'm going to insert my parts, and we're going to kind of talk about the different mate commands as we're going through it. I'm going to add them all to my document. Boy, that is large. Zoom out a little bit. Crankshaft, we'll put you over here. You can just click the current document. You can grab stuff from other documents if you'd like. Here's the cylinder, or a section of a cylinder, kind of a cutout. Put that right there. Grab the piston. Put that over here. And the wrist pin. Okay, and there we go. And we're going to press OK. If you press the X, they all get deleted. You got to press the OK option, and we'll maybe zoom isometrically so we can see everything. So what we're going to do is we want to attach all these things together, and we want to make it function and turn like what I demonstrated previously. So you would, if you were to draw this from scratch, you'd go to that drawing file, you'd create a part file, all in this document. So you just press plus until you had all the parts drawn. You'd have them down here on the bottom, and then you can start adding them to the assembly. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take this wrist pin and I want to put it in this slot for the piston here. Now the issue is the wrist pin is not oriented correctly. So the first thing you want to do is click on the object, and you want to turn it so it's facing the correct way. And so a good way to prevent from having this issue is when you draw it, make sure it's drawn in the correct orientation. So I want it to rotate 90 degrees. So I'm just going to press 90 degrees and type enter. Enter. Perfect. Okay, now I can take this wrist pin, and you don't just slide the wrist pin in. That doesn't work. We have to use one of these commands. And the one that we're going to use is the fasten mate, and I'm going to tell you why. We want to use the fasten mate in this particular instance because we don't want it to move or budge. Now, on a real piston, you've got this tiny little pin that sits in there. I'm no automotive expert, but that's holding that in place. Okay, so let's take a look here. We're going to go ahead and put that in. We're going to click Fasten Mate. We don't want it to move at all. We want no degrees of freedom. We don't want it sliding around. I'm going to click inside here, and then I'm going to click there, and then I'm going to click inside the cavity here, right there. So I want that aligned right there inside my cavity. And then you'll notice that it's not in the correct spot. If we press OK, it's not able to move around like we want. We kind of want it offset. So you're going to click this little offset mark, and you'll see that we want to offset in the Z-axis, and I totally don't remember how far it's supposed to be, so I'm just going to guess. I think it's 22, but I'm not sure. All right, that looks wrong, and then you can change the direction. Oh no, I think that's right. So you change the direction and then it is not correct. That is not looking like super great. Let's try that one more time. We're zoomed in, it's not looking centered. So let's offset it. Well, maybe it is. Yeah, it's looking good. Press OK. All right, so we've got that sitting in there just perfect. Now it's locked in. It's not going to slide or move around. You can't click and drag it anymore. I can click and drag the piston. I should be able to move this around my screen, but I will not be able to separate the wrist pin from the piston. Don't say that 10 times fast. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to take the piston and I want it to be held within this cylinder, or this part of a cylinder. So we have to mate the piston with the cylinder. And the way that we do that is we want it to slide up and down. We want to use, not fasten, revolute allows it to spin, okay, has 1 degree of freedom there. Slider can go up and down. So we're going to take the slider mate, I think is what we want. And we're going to take the slider mate, we're going to click on the piston. We are going to assign, you'll see these little cups, I think it's kind of aligning those. We're going to assign that inside there, and I don't think we need an offset because this is not going to be rigid, it's going to be kind of moving around. So, boy howdy, this thing, I got to move this. I think I'm melting my computer right now. That's all right. All right, and then we're going to drag this up and down. Now you'll notice it's pretty frustrating. I just want to move the piston, and that back part is moving as well. So what we're going to do to prevent that from happening is I'm going to right-click this solid, or rather I think I can go into the part files. Which part is it? Oh well, I'll just right-click this part file, and we're going to press Fix. What Fix does, it kind of locks it in place. So now when I go to drag my piston, you can see that it is sliding freely, and when I move my mouse to the left and right, that's no longer wiggling back and forth. So my piston's going to be going up and down in here, and golly gee, that's exciting. Okay, the next thing I need to do is I want to attach my connecting rod to the wrist pin inside my piston. So let's do that. All right, so I'm going to take my connecting rod, I'm going to click on this. We don't want to do a slider, thank you. I'm going to click on my connecting rod, and we need to rotate that. So I'm going to spin it down 90 degrees as well so that it's oriented correctly. It's very important we draw things kind of rectangular and aligned with the planes in our drawing files. All right, and we want this to be able to spin inside on that piston. So I'm going to select revolute. I'm going to click one of these. Okay, and then I want that to be married up with this here, and we can press OK. So we did a revolute mate. The revolute mate allows it to spin around that wrist pin. So I can now, is this not fixed anymore? Oh, I busted it there. Let's fix that again. Okay, should allow this to spin, but also allow the piston to move. So we've got this nice, beautiful movement going on in our assembly, which is unbelievably satisfying. I'm going to X out because I still have the revolute thing. Oh man, it's moving again. Brutal. Let's fix that. Alright, and then we're going to click and drag this. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. There we go. Alright, and so all that's left now is we have our little connecting rod. Or sorry, our crankshaft. So we're going to get our miniature oversimplified crankshaft attached to our cylinder. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to, I think we want to revolute mate. We're going to mate this with the hole present here, and I think we want, spin this around, I think we want to mate that right there. Perfect. So if you click on that, you know, that little cross section on the end and align here, it should stay aligned. Now when we go back, we should see that this is allowed to spin, and we can get that nice turning motion that we want out of our crankshaft. Okay, next, what are we doing? Next, I want to attach the crankshaft to my connecting rod, and this one I have had quite a bit of trouble, but we'll see. Kevin helped me out today. I think what we're going to use is we actually want, I haven't had any luck with the revolution mate. I would think that would work, but it doesn't actually. I think I had more luck with the cylinder mate, so that's what we're going to use. So I'm going to try the cylinder mate here. For whatever reason, I couldn't get the other one to work, but I've got some learning to do. I'm going to click on the hole that I want to connect. So I'm going to click the center one right here. I want that to be married up with the center there. Did that work? Did not work. All right, pause game. I'm going to pause and figure it out and then unpause. All right, I figured it out here. It was working just fine. I just needed to press OK. I don't know what I was thinking there. So take the cylinder mate for this one, and you're going to click inside here. You're going to mate it up here, and then it kind of looks like it's busted, and then you press OK, and then it's actually connected, which probably means the revolution mate might have worked too, but I haven't checked that. Okay, so here we go. And then you should have this working crankshaft, and it'll turn and pump. And now, this is incredible. What we can do now with this program, is we can start and design every single little piece of something. And when something is engineered, every little piece probably has a reason, or at least if it's engineered well. And you can assemble anything you want. You can build anything you want in here. The sky's the limit. So I'm excited to see what you guys make. I'm very excited to be able to teach this to you and to be able to draw something useful and to marry things together. What a joyous union we have celebrated today of all of these parts and pieces here in Onshape. So have fun hanging out with your mates, and we'll see you next time.